live.
You want to go to that message?
The conversation will take live on Facebook. The topic, of course, is Colored Lives Matter. Questions will be asked in a dignified manner. I will ask one question and give each representative an opportunity to respond. You will have 3 minutes in which to respond. If it's shorter than that, that's great. Thank you so much. Please be respectful of the different political affiliations. No derogatory comments will be allowed whilst individuals are responding. We will give each individual the opportunity to speak and to state their point. Yet again, thank you so much for being here. Colored Lives thanks you and all the representatives. So because we only have one lady on the panel, we're going to start with her. I'm going to introduce her to you, and then she's going to tell us a little bit more about herself. Priscilla Ferris, thank you so much for joining us, representing the Democratic Alliance. Please switch on your microphone. And we said the derogatory comments from the audience. Thank you, Jessie. It's on? On and off.
One, two.
So your question, and I'm going to have everybody answer the same question. The two gentlemen at the end, thank you very much. Priscilla Ferris, Eldorado Park has been so grossly marginalized by so many things happening here. Our biggest problem that we have right now is facilities, safe places for our young people, safe places when it comes to gender-based violence, all of those kinds of things. The Democratic Alliance, what is their stance when it comes to places of safety as well as addressing the children being attacked, children being marginalized, children being abused? What is your stance on that, as well as women in those same categories? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sheris. As the Democratic Alliance, we obviously believe that equal rights for everybody, including our children and youngsters and our vulnerable people. It is important that we understand that the current government does not allow for that. The capability and the funding is there, but they do not allow for that. We are being overlooked in terms of creating safe spaces for people. We are overlooked in spaces whereby we have our vulnerable people looked after and cared for. The government just allows that. They loot, and they don't really have a concern for the ordinary citizen of South Africa.
Please pass the microphone on to Kester Fisher, who is our representative from SARA. Thank you for being here today, Kester. Welcome. Same question.
For me, I think it is quite clear that the current representation that we have in government has overlooked the value and the importance, especially of the safety of women and children. But I think it is sort of a selective overlooking, right? Because it is not in every community, and sorry to say, but it is not with every race group, that there are no services provided for the safety of our women and our children. So as the South African Rainbow Alliance, we note and we are appalled by the overlooking and the disregard for the safety of women and children and the services that are provided only in selective areas. And it is one of the things that we look strongly to, and we look to addressing it as soon as we have the opportunity to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter Rafferty, Patriotic Alliance. Thank you for being here. Welcome.
Thank you, Sheris. Thanks for the invite, and thanks for each and everyone that is here this morning. From the Patriotic Alliance, it's our belief that sometimes we look for answers outside when bulk of the answers are within us. Right now, as much as legislature is failing us as communities, specifically as marginalized communities, right now NGOs are not getting funding. But us in Eldorado Park, right here down Hout Street, we have a safe house. Now, instead of us putting our heads together and supporting that particular initiative, what we normally do as people is we look at who is running it. And that's where we fail. The other part is we need to go back to basics. Right now we have very obedient parents and unruly children. So part of the problem that we're talking about here is specifically we need to reverse that and go back to this stage of Ubuntu where your child is my child, because no child will do anything wrong because there's an adult in the presence. So that is one of the things that needs to be done. And when we talk about safe spaces, we also bring the aspect of sports, arts and culture. It's us that can as communities, firstly to realize, but we need, however, the support from all spheres of government to realize that particular issue. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Keith Duarte.
Thank you, Sharis. I think you failed to mention that I'm representing Umkhonto Wesizwe. I'm representing Umkhonto Wesizwe from a Khoisan warrior aspect.
Wonderful stuff. Thank you so much, Keith, for being here. Thank you for joining us. Same question.
Yeah. You know, when you posed that question, the very first thing that came to my mind was Dr. Martin Luther King. Dr. Martin Luther King asked, and he said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Councillor Rafferty has hit it spot on. He hit it spot on. We have NGOs, we have NPOs within our communities, but all that we are doing is to criticize our very own people instead of supporting our NGOs and our NPOs. This issue, or this social ills, it's a social ill of our community. So I would like to think that our community must take ownership of the issues that we have instead of throwing stones and instead of criticizing one another. Yes, there is funding available, but this funding must be channeled in a way that it must be transparent, that we know exactly this funding is for a rehab center, this funding is for a safety place. Now, MK is standing strong with regards to ending the social ills in our community. We are very strong in that, in saying when we govern and when we come in to govern, the very first thing that we will do is to restore the old values, and the old values is to go back to your elders and your traditional councils. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you so much, Mr. Duarte. We've been joined by Samuel H. Kennedy from CIASA. Thank you so much for joining us today, sir. You weren't here when we asked the question, and it is, we have so many challenges when it comes to gender-based violence and the abuse of children. We have so few facilities. If you come into power, into a position where you can make a difference, how would you ensure that our places of safety are up to standard? And also, how will you ensure that when it comes to dealing with those social ills, particularly, you would address those, and what is CIASA's plan moving forward from there?
Thank you, and let's start with the second question first. We have no intention of being in government. Okay, so let's make that very clear, so that we don't come and bullshit people and tell people stories that 5 years later we'll be talking about the same story. All of us are sitting here today, and we've heard the same bullshit for the last, since 1994. So how many elections was that? 6. So for every period, so we've had 94, 99, 2004, 2009, 2014, 2019. We're now in 2024. So that's 8 election periods. And in between, we've had 2000, 2006, 2011, 2016, 2021, and we're coming to 2026 local government. And all that's happened, let's be honest, so we call a spade, because people are fed up. It's the same bullshit rhetoric, the same story. We can do this, we can do that, vote for me, we'll do better, he didn't do it, we have better administration. Look at the Western Cape, they're better than everybody else. We, whosoever. And it's the same rhetoric for 30 years. And the question is, and that's why I said I'll answer the second question first. I don't have a promise to anybody. The promise that I do make, though, and it's not a promise, it's a fact, that minorities have been ostracized. Minorities have been pushed aside. With no disrespect to the right. Who are the right? The Democratic Alliance, the Freedom Front Plus, the ACDP, and so forth and so forth. Who are the left? Primarily who? Black political parties. Who are they? ANC, IFP, we now have a new one that's popped up, MK, UDM, PAC, AZAPO, and so forth. Who's in the middle? Nobody. Who cares about this area? I come from a place called Newlands East, Scully Township. I live on the beach because I've worked for it. Right? I've worked for it. But my family still lives in Newlands East. Okay? So I understand the plight of people in the townships. I know exactly what the people in the townships are battling. I see gender-based violence, women being abused, children being abused, no shelters. And all I'm saying is, to those listening live, to those who hear the sound of my voice, think very carefully. Outside of these, with no disrespect, none of them will be in government. None. Why? Because the government of 2024, 2nd of June, is going to be a coalition government. So you need to understand that.
You're out of time. Thank you so much, Mr. Kennedy. Sure. Okay, right out the bat. All right. Well, this community is also known for trying to rectify this, the situation. So I'm going to go to Peter Rafferty. Peter, you have been in this space for many years, and you have operated on the ground and seen what has happened, and you've also gotten to the point where you've said, I am changing allegiance. And it's understandable because you are hoping that things will get better. When it comes to issues such as your president making a statement along the lines of he will back Israel, do you think that that has marginalized or alienated, rather, the Muslim communities in South Africa from the party?
Thanks, Sheris. I don't think as much that is the case. You see, that particular question that is being asked is not an open-ended question, because you can't align with the one and not the other, because people are killed on both sides. The Patriotic Alliance stance is, before we start talking about what's happening outside, can we fix right here, in our own backyards, where our kids are dying every day? So that's the stance of the PA. Internationally, we call for a peace order in a ceasefire, so that those particular issues can then be dealt with by those two governments and those of the EU and the AU to assist in facilitating that. That's where the problem is, because the West, your Americas and everybody else is quiet, and they are supposed to be the protectors of democracy and safety of various countries where there is war at play, because they have the muscle to do that. South Africa also has the muscle to do that. But you see, the problem is we send all our resources and lawyers to go and fight the battle there, but you can't even fight the battle for your own right here in South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter Rafferty. I'm moving away from asking you the similar questions because there are tangible issues that we need to address, and we'll go back to that so that we can understand exactly what your stance is per party, but also the level of respect that we need to show to every person that is present here today. So in the beginning I said we will not have the antagonistic rhetoric. We will be respectful of what everyone else has to say. We are all grown, we are adults, we know exactly what it is that we stand for, and we need to learn that if we're going to pass on respect to our children, we cannot be disrespectful. So I would appreciate if we kept the barbing down to a minimum. Thank you very much. So, Priscilla, it has been said that your political party, and we all stand under correction, and we all know that I'm the kind of person who will definitely stand under correction. However, it has been presumed that the Democratic Alliance signed into effect, or part of the signing of the act, which was employment equity. Employment equity marginalizes the community that you come from. It ensures that someone who has less experience than what you have, or what someone in your community has, will get a position before that individual. What is the DA's take on, number one, the presumption? And also, number two, unemployment is a major travesty in the community that you serve. How does the DA plan on addressing that outside of the Western Cape?
Sharis, it is true that unfortunately, the very first act was signed in by us, and the party has taken the stance and publicly apologized for that mishap. We need to understand that as people of color, if we second guess ourselves and we don't raise our hands and we don't call out our own parties that we align with, nobody else is going to do it. You as an outsider calling out your party, saying, but how dare you do this? What grounds do you stand on? What do you stand for? You align yourself and you call your own out. This has happened, and the corrections we are doing right now is by taking the ruling party to court to ensure that this does not happen again. As a resident from Eldorado Park, with unemployment being so high, I don't understand why is it that we are looking for color rather than capability, rather than the quality that you would deliver in a job. Why are we not looking at empowering, educating, making sure that the people that you put in there are fit for purpose? Why are we marginalizing certain human beings because of the skin color? So I think the DA has fallen into its mistakes, and it is now rectifying it by taking the government to court, ensuring that the Employment Equity Act does not take place. Thank you.
Thank you, Priscilla. Keith, welcome. You represent MK.
Amasi.
You've been in the newspapers as a political party based on constitutional court, electoral court, all of those things, when it comes to your party in particular, and of course one of the leaders of your party. Now, you come in as a newbie, and with the history of your leader, how do you plan, or how does your party rather, plan on changing the narrative that people already have of former President Jacob Zuma? And how is it that you feel you are up to muster by competing in a race where the majority of the horses that are in it have been at it for a while?
Thank you, Sharis. Very important question, and I appreciate that question. So, when we talk about leadership, we're talking about the quality of the type of leadership that we have. So we know that with regards to leadership, there's always propaganda and media that will always come and smear leadership. I have personally spoken, and myself in Kebia Glen Taibosh, we have personally spoken to Jacob Zuma, and Zuma has said to us, what you read in papers, it is not true. I have a track record in while I was president of this country. One, there was no load shedding. Two, there's been claims of corruption, but no one has come forward in saying this is the sentence, or you've been sentenced, or you've been found guilty of this corruption. I'm not here to defend Jacob Zuma. I'm here to talk on behalf of a newly party, you've said it, a new party, Mkhonto we Sizwe, that has experience in governing this country. It's a breakaway from the current corrupt government in saying you are not working and you're not serving your people correctly. So as MK leadership has also decided, and this may come as a surprise, we all know the fight that Jacob Zuma had with the IEC to put his face on the posters, but that is only the front. MK has resolved and they resoluted in saying we will be the first political party that will appoint youth in the ministerial positions. We will be the first political party. And why youth? Because we have a system. We have a strategy where I've said before, I've mentioned it, the youth will be led by the elders in the community, and this is by traditional leaders. So Jacob Zuma's record speaks for itself. But what I'm saying, as a newly member of the Mkhonto we Sizwe party, is that we must be given the opportunity, like all the other parties here, we must be given the opportunity to govern, and after we've governed, then only you can come and criticize or give input to us governing the country. I want to emphasize the fact that Mkhonto we Sizwe is the only political party where we as cultural, traditional Khoisan leaders has found a home. They're the only party that says we will restore with you, not with ourselves. We can only do this with the indigenous people, the Khoisan people, to restore land, for the minerals to stay in this country, and also to recognize you as indigenous people. I must say.
Thank you, Keith. Mr. Fisher, from Gangster Grace to Sarah. And yes, it is a play on words. Gangsterism, violence, substance abuse disorder, all of the major challenges that we find ourselves facing as the community of Eldorado Park, Westbury, Riverlea, Innerdale, Lavender Hills, Mitchell's Plain, because that is the one thing that we have in common, apart from the color of our skin. How do you see Sarah taking on that plight, number one? And number two, are you capacitated enough to address the challenges that you as yourself have faced based on the fact that you come from an organization that also had to deal with those same challenges and had to overcome them in many instances without the support of government?
Thank you, Sharon, so much for that question, and I'm glad that part of your question answered the question. When you speak about the fact that where I come from, right, and my experience with substance abuse, gangsterism, crime, and all the ills that we are connected with and interlinked with as colored people, I have the experience, and in that, I believe that I do have the capacity. And my capacity is what I bring into the party and what I offer to the party. And one of the main reasons why I'm a part of the party is, of course, because of the fact that we take very serious the struggles and the issues that we are faced with as colored people. And the reason why I've put my hand up, many people know that I've never been politically inclined. However, in my experience with trying to assist many of our people in the community, in my experience of having to, even in your company, rush to scenes where young men have been shot in their heads and the blood is coming out of their bodies, in that experience and with everything that we've done, all the marches, the memorandums, it became futile to me without having a political alignment, without having a political voice. Because somehow it seems that if you do not have in this country any political influence or political voice, your community tends to be overlooked, your people tend to be overlooked. And I think that it is time that we as a people, and my colleague said it, Councillor Rafferty, that we need to start looking within us. We need to stop waiting for the government. Why aren't we the government? Why do we disqualify ourselves from being the people who are sitting around the table and putting up our hands and saying enough is enough? Thank you.
Thank you, Kester Fisher. Samuel, you are a businessman. You have been involved and affiliated with many political organizations over the years. Small, medium, micro enterprises, and I know that you don't like the term very much. However, they need development. They need sustainability. We have challenges when it comes to those issues, because that will then, of course, lead to employment, which will lead to people getting off grant systems and so forth, and their dependency on our current government. What do you and the CIASA have in mind when it comes to creating opportunities for those SMMEs and ensuring that they have the necessary support to create opportunities for young people in historically disadvantaged colored communities?
Thank you. Let me just say, as an outline, so that I can clarify a point. You know, in this country, there's 60 plus million people. In this country, 8 out of every 10 people are African. So let it sink into your head before I tell you about business. So if 80% of every human on the face of this country is black, it's telling you that democracy is linked to majoritarianism. Nobody, minorities will get their space, but they'll get their space in proportion to. So storytelling is a nice thing, because everybody can tell you a story, but it's not going to give you the actual, factual, real answer. 2, I can tell you that I've apologized, but the hurt of the past, my apology is not going to sort that out. Correct? 3, I could tell you that I was a gangster, but that's irrelevant, because it doesn't help putting food on the table with everybody else. We need to find a solution to this problem, and we need to find a solution to the social issues of this country, where it includes not just traditional leaders, because there's this notion and this concept that traditional leadership will solve the problems of South Africa. They won't. The issues that will solve the problems of South Africa are in business, are in jobs, are in creation of jobs. 2, we respect former President Jacob Zuma. He comes from my home province. I know him personally. I was in the ANC for many years until I resigned. He was in government. He was there since 1999 as Deputy President of the Republic. He was here, in fact, in Eldorado Park a few years ago, if you remember. Nothing's changed. What's changed? And we're hoping that now that he's got his own party, things will change. He was in control of his previous party. 2, with no disrespect to the Democratic Alliance, an apology doesn't put food on the table. Therefore, let me say quite openly, in order to change business, we've got to reduce the emphasis on big companies to small companies. Now, the system, started by the ANC, propped up by the Democratic Alliance, assisted by the Patriotic Alliance in the city of Joburg, doesn't help our people when it comes to the allocation of work. We can see it. City of Joburg, go and work out what the percentages are for colored people. With the DA, with the PA, with whoever, with Colleen when she was a speaker, nothing's changed. So we need to have a regroup. We need to re-look at ourselves and say, forget about the party, forget about the individuals, what is best for South Africa? That's what we got to look at.
Thank you. Just to reiterate, we are giving everyone 3 minutes, and my timekeeper at the back is very strict. All right, so we know that you all have an opinion about what each and every person has said with regards to, and someone sent me a message earlier today and they said to me, why is it that the ANC has not responded? And my response was, as per the instruction from my co-founder, because I had a fat lot to say and I kept my cool, which was a good thing. They are the villain. Now, herein lies the question. Every person that sits here has had a run-in, an experience with the ANC. And the unfortunate thing for us is that they are still in power. Honestly speaking, do you think, and I'm asking this question because we all know that hope shines eternal. Do you think that they would ever let go of the reins in this country in our lifetime? And I'm going to ask each of you, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to respond. Do you think that they will let go of the reins in this country without a fight, number one? And number two, do you also think that your party has the capacity to take over from them and do better? We'll start with you, Peter.
Thanks, Sheris. I think where we are as a democracy, the issues here are deeply rooted, because it's not just the politicians that you have there. It's political members appointed in strategic positions. Does not matter who takes over. As long as those guys are there, they can maak wat jy wil, jy kan op jou kop staan tot jy blou is. It will not happen because they take the instructions from somewhere else and not from the political leadership that are there. So we need to start there. In terms of the ratio that has been mentioned, yes, true. You go to any department there, but we also have labor laws. You can't come in and say this is the ratio. These people are employed here, you need to go. They are permanently employed, there are rules, there are regulations that we have to go through. That's why I say this thing is deeply rooted. But at the same time, we have a brilliant constitution. If implemented to the T, will deal with a lot of the issues that we are fighting for now. So as the Patriotic Alliance, we believe that we do have the capacity to change things around. Because you see, our president and deputy president are not your seasoned politicians. They are business people, and that's what you need in terms of steering the country in the right direction. That's part one of those particular issues. Then the other one, as I wrap up, is the issue around the red tape for the smaller companies to start benefiting, as was outlined by my leader. Government is not in the space of creating jobs. They are there to create an enabling environment for businesses to thrive and to ensure that our people get what is due to them. Thank you.
We're making it 2 minutes apparently because Peter had a fat lot to say. So we'll take it from there. Kester, you ready to answer that one?
Sharis, let me say that I'm sure we are all familiar with the famous quote of Nelson Mandela. He said, if the ANC does to you what the apartheid government did to you, do to the apartheid government, do to the ANC government what you did to the apartheid government. The arrogance of the ANC government is far-fetched. Mm-hmm. They undermine the power and the intelligence of the everyday person of you and me. And because they do that, very soon they will find out that we do as a people have the capacity to unseat them and give the power to the people who really have the power, who really need the power to bring the change in the communities that really need the change. Many times we get so comfortable in our positions and we simply assume that we will be there forever. Many of the other parties even say that they will rule until Jesus Christ comes. I want to say that is the height of arrogance and even ignorance. So as the South African Rainbow Alliance, we strongly believe, maybe not by ourselves, And I'm sure we've all seen the research that says the government we will receive after the 29th of May is going to definitely be a coalition government. And we strongly feel that it will be a coalition government that for the largest part needs to exclude the ANC. Thank you.
Keith,
Well, thank you. Thank you, Sheris.
2 minutes, 2 minutes.
2 minutes. So your question is the ANC going to take them being defeated at the national polls lightly? The answer is no. They will not accept defeat. But in order for every citizen of this country to benefit, the very first thing that needs to be done, and we know we're talking about coalition government, the very first thing that needs to be done in cabinet is to change policies. Policies that's discriminating against the marginalized people. We are sitting here today, and because of policies, we have a lot of policies that's discriminating against the so-called colored people, the marginalized people. So I would say the very first thing, when parties go into coalition, they must agree to changing the policies that is currently ruling our people. With regards to employment opportunities, it is also policies that needs to be changed. So in essence, the MK party is capable and capacitated to govern and to be part of the coalition government that's going to govern the country. And one of the very first things, and it's in a manifesto, the MK government, there's only two parties in the whole of all the parties that is talking about racial classification. The Patriotic Alliance is talking about scrapping racial classification. The MK is talking about scrapping racial classification. And I think that's the very first thing, that if we're going to move forward in this country, we need to move forward as South Africans. Thank you.
All right, ladies first, he's being a gentleman. Thank you so much, Samuel.
Sheris, yes, the Democratic Alliance has the capability, the capacity, the policies. We've got it. One thing we need to understand is that ANC will not have an outright win in 2024. But we are all sitting here, including the Patriotic Alliance, and then saying that the ANC is at fault. But we are keeping the ANC in power by going into coalition with the very ANC that has given us this current economy, this current environment, this current Eldorado Park. The very same ANC that has ignored the pleas of Eldorado Park. You mentioned the Constitute. Yes, it is the best written, but in whose favor is it? In whose favor does this Constitution actually go? If you read it back to front and understand it, it works in the favor of those that are in power. So, going back to what Mr. Duarte said, this is, for anything and everything to change, a policy review is needed. A policy review. We cannot do this on a local level. We cannot do this on a provincial level. Policies need to favor each and every resident, each and every voter. It cannot be that we are sitting here blaming ANC, yet we are still continuing keeping the ANC in power. It cannot be. So no, ANC will not go out without a fight, but they will also not win outright. And the Patriotic Alliance and all its allegiances will keep the ANC in power. Thank you.
Gloves off, gloves off, gloves off. All right, Samuel.
This is what I love about politics. Politics is, as long as criticism is constructive, you've got to learn to give and to take. So I'm quite comfortable if somebody wants to make a comment about me, because I know how to give. And when I give it hard. So let me just put it to you this way. It's a myth, and it's actually a fabrication for anybody to sit here and say that the ANC won't go without a fight. Correct? In 2021, the DA took over power in this city, and the ANC was quiet. So it's a myth. I don't support the ANC, but it's not true, because we need to tell people the truth. 2, MK is another ANC, just in green, dark green. Let's tell the truth. Zuma was in power since 1999. He did nothing. And I can guarantee you, I come from his province, he's going to continue doing nothing. Okay? That's the reality. 2, with no disrespect to the DA, right? Cape Town has the highest percentage of backyard dwellers in South Africa. And they mostly colored, right? Mostly colored. We can talk about how good we are administratively. Why? Why? We're not fools. Because they had a better education system than us in apartheid. So they were beneficiaries of apartheid, which we didn't get. And even in 1994 onwards, we are still, look around, we are still the recipients of poor services by this government and its proxies. And its proxy is the Patriotic Alliance, with no disrespect. Right? They are proxies. And lastly, with no disrespect to Colleen, she comes from Cope. She was clapping hands with the very same ANC here in the city of Joburg. So let's tell the truth. People need to be awake and say, stop voting for people who you think are going to give you something, and yet all they're going to do is give themselves something.
Thank you so much. My esteemed colleague in Coloured Lives Matter also has a question. But before we go there, we have looked at so many things that, and maybe I'm living in a fool's paradise when it comes to pie in the sky and that type of thinking. Maybe I'm way too much of an optimist. Neville will disagree with me because I always try and find the good in people. We have sat here and we've spoken about all of the things that you could possibly change or you would change. Right now, we have so many young people dying on our streets on a daily basis. Coloured Lives Matter gets messages on its groups every single day about a young man being shot and killed in coloured communities, from Westbury to Pitsonderwater. It doesn't really matter because our kids are dying on the streets. The problem that I have with policies of our current government is that none of you here have ever challenged them. There's never been a challenge when it comes to the deaths that we are facing. There's been condolences. We've ons het groente gaan koop. Ons het gehelp met die funeral. But when have we ever gone to SAPS and said to South African Police Services, how far is this case? How is it that people are being turned away based on the fact that they are not gangsters, they don't belong to the fast guns or the Varadors, and the person was shot and killed, and they weren't a drug dealer, so what do you want us as SAPS to do for you? Because those are the messages that we get. So I want to know from you, right now, in your capacity now, not after the elections, not the 1st of June, the 2nd of June, or whatever the date may be, but now, what have you, in your capacity as party leaders, done to hold government accountable, because you can, based on the space you operate in? What have you done as a leader to address those challenges and to address those issues, and also to hold government accountable for the mere fact that they have overlooked us completely for 30 years? And that question is to all of you, and we'll start with the lady to answer first. Can we start with the lady, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Sorry, man. As the Democratic Alliance, of course, we do what we can as the opposition. And one thing is that we have marched in recent years. We have marched to Bheki Cele that needs to step down because he is failing, not just colours, but he's failing the entire country. I think it is also pivotal that we continuously blame the Minister of Policing, and we have not actually gone and seen what Ramola is doing, Ronald Namola. He's the Minister of Justice. We've gone in Eldorado Park, we can see the social ills, but we see no social development minister. This is an issue that has to be attacked from different levels of portfolios, different governmental levels as well, the different spheres. But we have not done so. And I think at times, as the ground force, we feel more than those that are actually in office. We feel more because our scruples allows us to have empathy with those on the ground. We will, as Democratic Alliance, continuously call people out and take them up the legal route where we need to do that. We have also within our community decided to be a part of stakeholders meeting, to call out the brigadier, to say what it is, what are your challenges? What are our challenges as a community? What are we seeing on the group? What are we seeing on the ground? How do we work together with your challenges as SAPS, which is a national entity? But how do we then get involved if we sit from the comfort of our homes or offices and dictate, not knowing what issues SAPS might have, what issues social development might have? How do we then come together and say, from a distance, I'm calling you out on this, I'm calling you out on that, but I'm not partaking in you assisting this community?
Can I be devil's advocate and say all of those things have been done in the past and nothing has been done? The question that is this: how do we make tangible change in the positions that we are currently to ensure that the children that are dying on our streets every single day, because that's what Colored Lives is all about. We want to talk to that, because we can say, okay, fine, send in the 200 people that we're still waiting for in Westbury, send in the army, do all of these things, but the question still remains, as the Democratic Alliance, who have you held accountable? Because we know in Eldorado Park, when we go to the police station, there are some people that the brigadier will not deal with. So what I am saying to you is, and yes, I'm going to challenge all of you in your answers, so it's not just, I'm not picking on you, in case anybody is taking umbrage. The thing for me right now is that how has it changed on the ground, what the work that you are claiming that has been done? How does that happen? Has it happened?
So in instances it has. I can actually call out certain individuals and keep them to account. With that said, it is sad that certain individuals have that privilege of calling SAPS out. But we're not all given the same priority.
Okay. Kester.
Sharis, if I may, before I jump into that question, I just want to say that before we name drop, especially as the CIASA, do not forget that one of your leaders, not so long ago, Mr. Reddy, was also in the city and also worked very closely with those whom you now say we should not work with, and whom you pointed fingers at and saying that, yes, the PA, Colleen, MK, they worked very well and clapped hands for certain people. Your leaders, not so long ago, were those people as well. I want to say that in terms of holding people accountable, unfortunately, the reality is that not so long ago, not many of my colleagues on my left or on my right, not all of them were with us as we stood to hold SAPS accountable. I know that many of them refused to take up arms with us in this community when we were holding SAPS accountable, when we were holding the Brigadier of Eldorado Park accountable. Many of them raised their voices and said, we are doing it because we have ill motives. The brigadier is doing a good job. Well, from where I am sitting, the brigadier is doing a terrible job because bodies are still dropping. Last week, I had, and our organization had to witness the funeral of one of the young boys whom we had been working with in our organization, trying to help and assist him. Yet, because of limited resources, because of the inability and the unwillingness of SAPS Eldorado Park, the brigadier in specific, to intervene and assist with what we are asking for, our young people are still dying. Now, as the South African Rainbow Alliance, I am one of the leaders that is in the forefront of holding SAPS accountable. Just last week, I was with the Westbury community when there was a meeting that was held for the deaths and the response that never came to light. Ever since the murders and the deaths happened in Westbury the past 2 weekends or the past month or so, the promises that were made never came to light. And I can tell you, like Eldorado Park, even in Westbury, many of our counterparts who are sitting here next to me are absent. They are absent, they are not there when we are calling out SAPS, when we are fighting for our children who are bleeding and dying on a daily basis. Thank you.
Thanks, Sheris, for that question. But let me just first start with something. You see, the level of arrogance within the DA is something else. All the coalition partners agree to one thing, that who is the problem. So I'm parking that one there. Yeah, we all know who's the problem. Let me park that. I didn't come here to speak about other political parties. We speak to the issues. But I just needed to say that. I think when I started out, I was very clear in terms of what needs to happen. You see, no one can fault, maybe Councillor Caldine, yes, at times say doen goed is otherwise. But she has been vocal ever since anything happened. And the very same community leaders, most of them turned around and said, attention seekers, 1, 2, 3, there was a grouping that actually fought against this. They know themselves. They know themselves. But in terms of that, Councillor Joelia and Councillor Dwayne has been there from the beginning, supporting. Because you see, one of the things that Eldos has that no one else has, and I'm proud that I was part of that, initiating that particular process, is the local drug action committee, which brought people that have never sat around one table, working together to one common cause. Now, if we can leave our differences aside, we can achieve much more. We look at the issue, not who's driving it. And the other sad reality is, and we've seen this over time, someone comes out, they make a statement, they take on everybody, boom, next moment, gesig op 'n pamphlet. If we move away from that, I don't care who does what. If it benefits Eldorado Park as a start, all of us need to rally towards, because that person might have a great heart or great initiative, but it takes all of us with our different expertise to realize one common goal. So I'm gonna leave it there and speak to, from here, not only here, but right through, whether there's an election or not, unity amongst us all. Working together does not mean we have to drink tea together. If you understand the concept, you will know what is needed, and sometimes we have to humble ourselves and work with others in order for us to achieve our goals. Thank you.
Amasi. I want to share the sentiments of Sarah and Peter Rafferty. I mean, at some time, and the key word here is accountability. So we've kept the South African police force accountable with all the shootings. And at one stage, we even had our own vigilante team that went out to go and fetch the illegal firearms in the houses of those guys that's firing. But it is not for me to come here and criticize political parties. It is best for us, like Peter Rafferty has said, we have to find that one common goal. We have to find that one common goal and find out what is it that draw us together. What is it that we share a common purpose in? Now, I would like to believe that Eldorado Park with all its political parties, share a common goal with regards to all the shootings, to the gangsterism, and all the drugs that's been peddled in our community. We can do this if only we put our differences aside. We can do it. We have the capability. We are sitting here today, and this reminds me, at one stage, Eldorado Park were united when we buried Nathaniel Julius. We were united at that point in time. We've shown the world. We've shown the other communities and all the other provinces that Eldorado Park are united and they can function as one with regards to burying Nathaniel Julius. So yes, we have the capability to stand together against the social ill. If only we put our differences aside. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me just clarify a point. Criticism, I keep repeating it. I'm comfortable with it, and I'll never change my stance. That there are people, even if it includes Mr. Reddy, it doesn't include me. There are people who sit making promises day in, day out, and yet eat at the table of those who control the instruments of power. That's my position. It's nothing to do with whoever the person is. That's where the manifestation of the social ills of South Africa rests. You can go and fight with the brigadier, you can call the general, you can strike against Begi Cele. They strike or protest, marched against Zuma. Zuma didn't go. You can do whatever you like. It doesn't change the situation. The situation is here. People still get second-class services, irrespective of the political party in power or political party hoping to be in power. I'm saying, and I'll say it very clearly, and I'm scared of no one, nobody. We have no interest. No interest. I don't care whether you're a gangster, you were a hanger, you were a 28, 26. We have one objective. What is in the benefit or in the best interest of this community? Because we are in this community. We're not outside. Two, whoever the coalition government is, because there's a contestation for power, we have no interest. We want to hold those in power accountable, fully accountable. And that's why we won't take sides. We'll sit, observe, and hold them to account. They can come and tell us that they're the best administrators in the country. They can tell us they're going to end load shedding. Let me tell you something. Until you know how much money is available, nothing's going to change. You need to know what is available in the budget in order to work out what the level of services you're going to get. And it must be commensurate. You know what commensurate means? The same value that you're putting in Gauteng, put the same value here. Because if you're not doing that, then you're a hypocrite. Whether you're with the ANC, whether you're with the DA, or whether you're in the coalition government, whatever it is, if you're not getting commensurate services equitably, then all of us are liars. That's my point, closing point.
Thank you. Carry on, Peter. Are you done? Everybody done? Oh, okay. Quite interesting, and I think that's the main reason why we asked everybody or invited everybody to come along and, you know, share their views and their ideas. But I've been listening attentively, and what I gather from the information that you guys spoke about was that right now, currently, because we're speaking about current affairs, the shootings are still happening. If I can call about close to 100 people right now, they'll tell you they don't have bread in their homes right now, here where we're standing. So to buy groceries, like that guy just said. So that's the reality here, you know, amidst the promises that we are making. But another thing that I want to mention is that everybody's saying there's a common denominator. And the common denominator is the ANC. And that is why we are here in this position. Mostly, okay, they have joined forces with other parties, right? So my question is, with the majority of the party sitting here, experiencing the same ills in Eldorado Park, social ills in Westbury, Rivoli, across the board. What I've noticed when the president of CIA was making certain points also and saying certain things, and he was stating that his statements are factual. So let's base everything on facts. So my point is this: I can see the leaders sitting here, their expressions. Sometimes it seems like they are annoyed with certain questions that are being asked. So my point is this: all of you sitting here, you know the social ills that's happening in our communities. You are experiencing it. But to me, it seems there's a gap between the soldiers on the ground and your leadership. When it comes to the leadership, the hierarchy, so to speak, there seems to be division. Because at times, as an activist, I was told, no, we need to report to leadership. So the things that's happening in Eldorado Park or all the other communities, there's a gap between you guys who are the food soldiers. But tomorrow, it seems that when one of you becomes a councillor or in a certain position, then it seems that we forgot why we fought for the people on the ground in the first place. So ultimately what I'm saying or asking, seeing that we've identified who the common denominator is, we come from Eldorado Park, we all live here. When you walk out of your door, you're experiencing the same social ills that Kesselman is experiencing, Pastor Castor. So when is it time that we are going to put the people first that are hungry, that are dying, that don't have jobs? Or is it only in the interest of the party who's supposed to sit on top? That's my question, and more or less that's my statement. So when are we going to eradicate the villain, the common denominator? When is that going to happen? Thank you. Candace. I'm saying, sorry. You know who I'm speaking about. Priscilla, sorry.
Neville, it starts now. It has started. Eldorado Park is awoken to what we are being oppressed to, what we are being, what we actually have been accepted, what we have accepted. It is no one's fault but our own. We have for far too long allowed Eldorado Park to be the playground of many, many political parties that have not even worked the ground. We have for far too long allowed Eldorado Park to be the playground of people that want to use residents, that want to use us as the colored people. The change has started. I can say that within the DA, it has definitely started. I think Eldorado Park has awoken to how politics affects every single thing, from the police station to the ambulance services. The change starts now.
Yes, sir.
I want to say that it is a bit far-fetched for anyone to say that we start now or that it is started now. The magnitude of the issues that we face and the struggles that we have, it is not a quick fix solution. And any political party that comes to this community and sells any idea that it will be fixed tomorrow, I'm sorry to say that those people are liars, for lack of a better word. The issues that we face, they are so many that it will take a few years for us to begin to see progress. But the truth of the matter remains that there is an opportunity, there is hope for progress. And I think one of the things that we need to do, even as political parties and those who reside in Eldorado Park and have a heart for the community of Eldorado Park, things do not have to be the way they are in Eldorado Park. But the issue that we have is before people represent Eldorado Park, they want to represent their parties. They want to represent their T-shirts. They want to stand for a name. And many of these names do not have a history in Eldorado Park. And that's what becomes upsetting, is that you would first stand for your T-shirt before you stand for the community that lies in decay. Now, one thing that cannot be said over and above every other thing that has been said about my party president, Colleen Makubele, is that she is not one that comes to the ground. Eldorado Park and the leaders in Eldorado Park can attest to the fact that when we were going through the most, when we were experiencing more than 30 deaths in a matter of 2 weeks, 3 weeks, she was one, no, and she didn't even have a political influence or a political benefit for coming to Eldorado Park at that point in time. Yet she came. And even after she came, and you can ask my colleagues here, when she went back to council, to preside over council, she was one of the only councillors that was wearing a T-shirt that said, yes, Eldorado Park again. And that speaks for itself.
Thanks, Sheris. I think, let me start as the Patriotic Alliance. If asked, have you done enough? No, we have not. Truth be told, we have not. We still have a lot of challenges. We still have a lot of ground to cover. But I can tell you one thing, the DA's eviction order remains. I just want to be there. I think for me, from the start, because I even take from my own family to assist other people. So it's never been about the position for me. It was, where you are you able to make a difference? And I would believe in my own capacity as Peter Rafferty, that is what I've done. And many can attest to that. Just yesterday, just by the way, I'm no longer a councillor in the city of Johannesburg, but I'm a member of the Patriotic Alliance. And even in then, not having a position, we still go out and we spend and we fix where there is problems as best we can with what we have. And both can be said about Councillor Joeria as well as Councillor Ponsonby. But to the fact that, have we done enough? Truth be told, no, we have not. So we must be honest in terms of that and deal with that specific aspect. So when you speak about the ward councillors, they still have until 2026. And then for people to decide, what will they be doing? Because I can tell you, the budget's in place was inherited in 2016 and we had to, in fact 2021, that we had to take through. So there's very little changes that could be made in terms of those particular budget that's currently there. Now you have an opportunity where some of these things can be rectified. But I think consistency in terms of the Patriotic Alliance, from day one, we've been on the ground. We didn't wait when it's an election and skrik ons wakker. We've been here. Salute.
Yeah. Seeing that Mkonto is a very new party, I can only speak on behalf of the activism that I've been involved in our community. I've always maintained and I've always said this. Our community in Eldorado Park are politically uneducated. And that is why you find political parties taking advantage of them. The very first thing that we need to do in this community is to conscientize and educate our community members as far as politics is concerned. Our people don't even know what is the difference between socialism and capitalism. So how can you ask them to go to the polls and vote for a party? So from my point of view, we have not done enough. We've not done enough because we are still sitting with the very same racist policies, your affirmative action, your black economic empowerment, in where our youngsters, and it's evident. The reason why you see all the shootings is because our young people, especially the young men, find it very difficult to submit their CVs and come back with disappointing news. That is why you will find them joining gangs, because now they want to be independent. They don't want to depend on their families and asking their mothers and their parents for techies. That is why you'll find them becoming gangsters. We've not done enough. So we have to start And charity begins at home. My appeal to all political parties and my challenge to all political parties present today, let us start political education classes for our community so when they go to the polls, then they can make informative decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the question that was asked, and I think some of us have missed it by a mile, the question that was asked was, will we continue, if elected into power, coming back to these communities from which we're trying to solicit votes? I think that was more the question, and I think we ended up skirting the issue, talking about everything else rather than the real issue. And so we'll tell you what the answer is, because we know the answer. The answer is, 1, don't put people in you don't trust. Dis die eerste punt. Whether they come with a blue, a green, a black, an orange, a white, make a conscious decision that apartheid has contributed to where we are, but the ANC government has exacerbated it. Let's be honest. And in that ANC, which Keith agrees, was Jacob Zuma. So he can't come now and be like a chameleon and say, no, don't worry, I was in power, but when I'm on my own, I'll do it. It's not going to happen. 2, don't sit here and make all the empty promises, and yet when you're in power, you're doing deals with the very same people. This ANC government, I respect every single political party, but what I don't respect is nonsense. And nonsense must be called out. Right? 3, if you occupy an administration office under an ANC government, it's not you, it's the government that you're sitting in. So don't come and tell us here that you did this, you did that, and you helped and you didn't help. Who were you under? You were under the very same people we're talking about. And we need to enlighten our people, and I fully agree with Keith, and I agree with Peter, that let's cut the, I nearly said bullshit, I was tempted to, but based on what you said, I'll call it nonsense. Let's cut the nonsense out, and let's stick to the real issues. Look at these flats, and tell me whether you'll find this type of stuff in a white area. You won't. Let me tell you number 2. Tell me if you find this stuff in this condition in a black area. And the answer is no. And let me tell you number 3, because I'm from Durban. Go to Phoenix, go to Chatsworth, you won't find this. So what's the problem? Colored, and coming back to the real issue, which everybody skirted. Colored lives matter like every other life. And it's time we stood together. I don't care whether you're green, brown, blue, yellow, I don't care. If I need to tell you, I'll tell you the truth. And the truth must set us free.
Thank you, Samuel H. Kennedy. Sure, a lot to think about. Thank you for bringing us back to the harsh reality. I am going to give you each an opportunity of a minute, because I think that we have gotten the point across, and I want you to talk to Coloured Lives Matter. I want you to speak into those coloured lives that are watching you on Facebook right now. I want you to engage them and tell them how you, the individual, because we know when it comes to our parties, there's national campaigning, there's community meetings, there's a whole host of things that is keeping us back from what it is that we really need to be doing, which is staying on the ground and ensuring that our children no longer die from bullets being fired from cars that SAPs have the registration of, but we won't go there. I want us to speak to the people and tell them how you plan on changing, because if you change your narrative as an individual, surely that narrative will then be transposed into the party that you represent, because we said we are fighting the system. We are fighting the category. We are fighting those restrictions that have been imposed on us, because it's no longer apartheid, but it is clear that we are being held hostage by something. And the something that we are being held hostage by more often than not are criminals, and they are people that need to be held accountable. But I give you this. We appreciate the fact that you took time out of your busy schedules with your national campaigning, with your door-to-door, with your becoming acclimatized to the political sphere and having to listen to someone else tell you what you're supposed to say. Being passionate enough to understand that it is okay for people to be people. And if anything, Kester Fish is the one person who's taught me about forgiveness. Being the man who speaks the truth and is not afraid to say it, but who is also a politician. So ultimately, I thank you all for being here today. I appreciate the fact that you took the time. I take off my hat to all of you. Thank you for showing us that colored lives matter. On the 12th of May, and people are saying it's Mother's Day. Yes, it is Mother's Day. But we have mothers crying in our streets. We have mothers shedding tears for their children that have been shot down and killed. So we are not saying we are going to keep you for the entire day. We are saying we are going to keep you for long enough for the American embassy and all the other embassies that we are going to be speaking to on that day, because they've said they will come. They said that they will come. They are there to support us. And we have challenged the Dutch embassy. We've got Croatia on board. Croatia, who would have thought? There are so many people, the British, there are so many people who are interested in what it is that we have to say and our story. Colored lives matter too. And if your child's blood has cried from the streets of Eldorado Park, Westbury, Riverlea, Coronationville, New Clare, Bosmont, Lavender Hills, Mitchell's Plain, Innerdale, all of those areas where we were placed. Because remember, we didn't go there by choice. We were put there. The apartheid government put us there. And they made sure that we were far away from each other. Kyk hoe ver is Innerdale. But anyway, you need a passport. I am saying to you that I would like for you to join us on the 12th of May. No t-shirts, no different colors. White, because we come in peace. We need peace on our streets. We need the people of this country to realize that our lives matter too. We need the people of the world to realize that we are important too, and we have something to contribute. So, from me to you, thank you very much. We appreciate your time and your effort. I'm going to hand over to your leaders. You're going to have 2 minutes. What are you saying? A minute. A minute. A minute. To tell the people there and here, and those that can hear your voice, exactly what it is that will make you the person, not for them to vote for, but the person for them to believe in and look up to.
Eldorado Park. Our scruples is the one thing that unites us. Our difficulties is the one thing that unites us, because we share the pain. We feel the pain. In any which way, directly or indirectly, we've all been affected by the crimes that we feel. The interracial crimes, the colored and colored violence across Joburg, Cape Town, everywhere. We are killing each other. We are having a generational gap coming up upon us. We are asking all of you to unite for us, for our generations to come, for the children's children, for us to be that which we are not heard of in anywhere in the world. We are more than gangsters. We are more than drug dealers, more than murderers. Can we unite with us? Thank you.
Sheriff, I would simply say to the people of Eldorado Park that if I had to do anything, I wouldn't do anything else different. I'm an individual that does not believe in titles or positions. I am a person that has an open door policy. Anyone can attest to the fact that I'm always available. And the reason why, as a person, I resonate with the South African Rainbow Alliance is because I've witnessed the same from those who are in leadership in the South African Rainbow Alliance. There's really no distance between those who are working on the ground, those who are campaigning on the ground, and those who are leading and sitting around tables and having meetings that pertain to the well-being of this country. And I think that if we all can adopt as leaders in the community that very same stance, that it is not about a title, it is not about a position. Because the very same title and the very same position that you hold today was given to you by the people who entrusted that position, that title to you. And the very sad thing is, after you have received that title and that position, you are no longer accessible to the people in the community.
Thanks, Sheriff. I'll continue being Peter. Ek gaan my kar pak by die huis nog steeds en loop deur die strate van Eldo. So weer jy geskel word of te nie, of gecompliment word based op wat jy doen. That's who I am, and that's what we'll continue doing. What I said initially is we need to unite as a community, and I, as Peter, will be one of the people that will lead that particular process. In fact, I have been there, I'm still here, and we'll continue doing that. Because once you start doing that, most of the social ills that we are talking about today can be curbed by 50% if we all rally behind one another and not look at who is running in front.
Amazing. Yeah. So we've been looking for one common purpose, for one common goal, and here it is. I want to take my hat off to the organizers, the founding members of Colored Lives Matters. You saw the need of people to come together. Today you have already proven again that you are bringing political parties together to speak to Colored Lives Matters. My challenge is out there to community members of Eldorado Park, Kliptown, Klipspruit West, and all other so-called colored communities. Let us rally together and come together on the 12th of Women's Day and show our solidarity. Mother's Day. Thank you, Sheriff. Let us rally together on Mother's Day and come show our solidarity with regards to Colored Lives Matter. The only challenge that I'm posing to each and everyone present here, be part of the history. This is historical. It has never been done before. So be part of this historical occasion. I'm asking.
Sheriff, that mic is flat.
Thank you, folks. Thanks for the invite. It's good to be amongst your own. It's good to talk about your own. I must thank Keith because I think he's spoken on all of us, on behalf of all of us, in terms of thanking the organizers. When I came here, my mandate or my scope was only to talk about Colored Lives Matter. I never came to talk about my party. You've never heard me say a word about my party. Everybody is talking about their parties. I came here for Colored Lives Matter. And for me, that is more important than these little flags that are running around. I might be wearing the attire, but I never said a word about my party. 2, when you vote, I want to leave you with this thought. When you vote, look at all of us here and remember one very simple logic. Banamanga. Right? Banamanga. Ask them who they're going to form an alliance with after the election, and you will find the answer. The same elephant in the room is the one they're going to be joining after elections. Because if they haven't joined that one, they're going to be running with the blues. So I'm saying, as a colored, think very carefully, because you've been voting for all world is whatever and nothing's changed. Now's your chance to make a change.
Thank you, everybody. It was amazing. I hope to see. Well, the next challenge is this, of course. Without your T-shirts, without your colors, 12th of May, we converge on the American consulate in Sandton. 9 o'clock until about 11 o'clock, we'll be there, and we're saying to the Americans, speak to your people. They're your people. They want to be seen as a power. While we are saying to them, we're challenging their power, and we want them to be the people that will say to our government, it is time that you start identifying and recognizing colored people, because we matter too. I'm Sharis Reyes, on behalf of myself and Eva Williams. We'll see you on the 12th. Be there or be left out. Cheers, everybody.